The message came on a Tuesday. All across Earth, screens flickered to the same image. A blue-skinned being with 4 eyes and a voice that sounded like water over stones. The being spoke in perfect English, though its mouth moved strangely with the words. People of Earth, we are the Galactic Senate. We represent over 200 spacefaring species. Your radio signals have reached us. We wish to meet. Captain James Reed stood in NASA's control room, his mouth open. After years of searching the stars had found them instead. 3 weeks later, Reed found himself on a ship unlike anything humans had built. It moved without engines, at speeds that made light seem slow. Next to him sat Lisa Turner, Earth's best diplomat. "Do I look okay?" Reed asked, fixing his uniform again. Turner smiled. "You look fine. Just remember, we're guests here. We follow their rules." The ship landed at a space station larger than Earth's moon. Inside, Reed saw beings of all shapes, some with 6 legs, others with skin that changed colors, and many who floated rather than walked. An alien with skin like tree bark approached them. "I am Mach, your guide. The Senate waits." The Senate chamber was a massive room with seats for hundreds. Beings of all kinds looked down at the 2 humans. Reed felt very small. The head of the Senate, a tall being named Vix, spoke first. "Humans, we welcome you conditionally. You will be on probation until you prove yourselves civilized." Turner stepped forward. "We thank the Senate for this opportunity. Earth is honored to join your community." As they toured the station, Reed noticed how other aliens watched them. Some moved away when humans got close. Others stared with too many eyes. "Why do they look at us like that?" Reed asked Mach. Mach's skin rippled. "You are unusual." Later, in their quarters, Turner shared her observations. "Did you notice? Most of them are stronger than us. That blue one could probably lift a car." Reed nodded. "But they seem worried about us. It doesn't make sense." "I have a theory," Turner said. "They gave us tests on the way here. Endurance, problem solving, adaptation to stress. I think we scored differently than they expected." That night, Reed couldn't sleep. He stood at the window, looking at the stars that were no longer distant mysteries. A small alien with glowing spots approached him in the hallway. "Human," it said. "I am Kel, Senate Archivist. I have studied your species." "What have you learned?" Reed asked. Kel's spots pulsed. "That you are dangerous in ways you don't understand." "We come in peace," Reed insisted. "All species say this," Kel replied. "But few evolved as you did, as hunters who never stopped chasing prey until it collapsed from exhaustion. Few kept their predator instincts while developing technology." Reed frowned. "We're not monsters." "No," Kel agreed. "But you are human. The Senate fears what it does not understand." The next day, Reed watched aliens from different worlds interact in the station's main plaza. Some moved slowly, conserving energy. Others needed rest after small efforts. None showed the constant restlessness of humans. Captain Reed called Vix from across the room. The Senate leader approached with several officials. "Your species will attend the full Senate tomorrow. We will discuss your place among us." As they walked away, Reed heard one official whisper to another, "Let's hope we never have to see what they're really capable of." Reed looked at Turner, who had also heard. "What are we capable of that scares them so much?" Turner shook her head. "I don't know, but I think we might find out." 6 months passed quickly. Earth joined the Galactic Senate on probation, and humans began to learn about their new place in the universe. Captain Reed sat in the Senate chamber, trying not to fidget. While other species could sit still for hours, humans always needed to move. This made the aliens nervous. The Senate leader Vix called for attention. "We face a crisis. The Vrax Dominion has attacked Thelian colonies again." Images appeared in the air. Reed saw cities burning. The Thelians, peaceful beings with gentle features and skin like gold dust, were dying by thousands. "The Vraks will not stop," said a Thelian representative named Lynn. Her voice shook. "They have threatened to destroy our homeworld next. We beg for help." Whispers filled the room. The Vraks were feared throughout the galaxy. Large, armored beings with technology built only for war. Reed stood up before he could stop himself. "Earth can help. We have soldiers trained for." "Sit down, human," Vix ordered. "You are not authorized to offer military aid." Turner pulled Reed back to his seat and whispered, "Not now." The debate went on for hours. Some species wanted to help the Thelians. Others feared facing the Vraks. No decision was made. Later, Reed paced in his quarters. "They'll talk until every Thelian is dead. Why won't they act?" Turner watched him with tired eyes. "Because war is different for them. Most species evolve to avoid conflict, not excel at it." A soft knock interrupted them. It was Kell, the old archivist Reed had met months ago. "May I enter?" Kell asked. His glowing spots pulsed dimly. Inside, Kell showed them ancient records on a small device. "Look at the evolutionary paths of Senate species. The Mork evolved from herd animals, the Vanthi from filter feeders, the Jiks from burrowers, and humans," Turner asked. "Pursuit predators," Kell said. "You kept running when prey grew tired. You used stamina and intelligence together. This makes you different." Reed frowned. "Different how?" "Most species fight only when cornered. You humans plan conflicts. You create strategies. You can fight tired, hungry, injured, and still win." Kell's spots glowed brighter. "This is why the Senate fears you." Turner leaned forward. "The Thelians need that kind of help now." "Yes," Kell agreed. "But the Senate will never allow humans to fight. They fear what you might become." After Kell left, Reed couldn't sleep. The images of Thelian cities burning filled his mind. The next morning, emergency alarms woke them. The Senate chamber was in chaos when they arrived. "The Vraks have attacked the main Thelian colony world," Vix announced. "Millions are trapped. Evacuation ships cannot reach them." Lynn, the Thelian representative, was crying openly. "My family is there. Please help us." Reed watched as the Senate debated sending ships. Some argued it was too dangerous. Others said they needed more time to plan. "They're going to die waiting for the Senate to decide," Reed whispered to Turner. Turner's face was grim. "I know." During a break in the session, Reed gathered with other human representatives in a quiet room. "We have a ship," said Mike Jones, a human pilot. "Not large, but fast." Reed nodded. "How many people can fit on it?" 15, maybe. Not enough to evacuate a planet. "But enough for a rescue team," Reed said. Turner walked in and saw their faces. "What are you planning?" Reed looked at her steadily. "The right thing. The Senate has forbidden human military involvement," she reminded him. "Then we won't tell them." Reed stood straighter. "I won't watch millions die when we can help." Turner was quiet for a long moment. Then she said, "You'll need someone to cover for you here." That night, 15 humans slipped aboard a small ship. As they prepared to leave, Reed sent one message to Turner. "If we don't come back, tell Earth we tried to make them proud." The ship vanished into the darkness, heading for the Thelian colony. And war. The small human ship dropped out of faster-than-light travel near the Thelian colony world. The view made them all go quiet. The planet's cities burned. Vraks warships circled like hungry sharks. Escape pods fled toward space, but Vraks fighters shot many down. "This isn't war," said Thomas Miller, the team's communications expert. "It's slaughter." Reed checked his weapons. The team had brought what they could hide: small guns, knives, and equipment that could be explained as rescue tools. "Remember the plan," Reed told his team. "We're here to evacuate civilians, not fight a war. We avoid the Vraks when possible." "And when not possible?" asked Alex Grant, their medic. Reed's face hardened. Then we show them what humans can do. Their ship's sensors found a large group of Thelians trapped at an evacuation center. Vrak's ground forces were closing in. "We'll land here." Reed pointed to a spot hidden by trees. "Move fast. Stay quiet." As they approached the planet, Miller picked up a transmission. "Captain, I'm getting a message from the Senate. They know we're here." "Ignore it," Reed ordered. The landing was rough. Outside, the air smelled like smoke and something else. Something burning that wasn't wood or fuel. "Spread out. Teams of 3, Reed commanded. "Find survivors and direct them here." The humans moved through the burning landscape. They had trained for harsh conditions on Earth, but nothing like this. Still, they kept going. Reed's team found the evacuation center first. Hundreds of Thelians huddled inside a damaged building. Outside, Vrak's soldiers were setting up weapons. "They'll break through in minutes," whispered Jones, looking through binoculars. Reed counted the Vraks, at least 50 against his 15 humans. Not good odds. A Thelian child stumbled out of the building, lost and crying. A Vrak soldier raised its weapon. Reed didn't think. He fired first. The shot echoed. The Vraks turned toward them. "So much for staying hidden," Jones muttered. Reed activated his radio. "All teams, the Vraks know we're here. New plan. Buy time for the evacuation. Use the terrain. Don't let them see how few we are." The humans scattered into defensive positions. The battle had begun. Back at the Senate, alarms blared. Screens showed the human ship at the Thelian colony. "They defied our direct orders," Vic shouted. Ambassador Turner stood alone before the angry Senate. "The humans went to save lives, not to start a war." "It makes no difference," said a senator with scales for skin. "Humans have now engaged in combat in Senate space. This is forbidden." "Send ships to stop them," ordered Vix. "Bring these humans back for punishment." Turner watched the Senate ships depart. She knew they would arrive too late. Whatever Reed and his team were going to do, they would do it before help or hindrance arrived. On the planet, Reed's team moved like ghosts through the smoke. They set traps. They fired from different positions to seem like more fighters. They used the Vraks' size and strength against them, leading them into tight spaces where their bulk was a disadvantage. Miller hacked into the Vraks' communication system, sending false orders. Grant treated wounded Thelians while still fighting, working through pain when a Vraks blast grazed his leg. The other teams reported similar small victories, but the Vraks kept coming. "We can't hold much longer," Jones reported. "There are hundreds of them." Reed looked at the evacuation center. Half the Thelians were loaded onto transport ships. The other half still waited. "We don't need to hold forever," Reed replied. "Just long enough." A massive explosion rocked the ground. The Vraks had brought in bigger weapons. Reed wiped blood from his face. "New positions. Fall back to the center. We make our stand there." As the humans regrouped, Reed caught sight of something in orbit. Senate ships arriving. "They're too early," he said quietly. "The evacuation isn't complete." His radio crackled with a message from the Senate forces. "Human vessels, stand down immediately." "This is a direct order." Reed turned off his radio and looked at his team. Their faces were dirty, some bloody, but all determined. "Let's finish what we started," he said. And the humans prepared for the real fight. Night fell on the burning colony. Reed watched as Vrak's forces gathered for their final push. His team of 15 humans stood between the aliens and thousands of Thelian civilians. "Captain, we've got a problem," Miller called. "Vrak's jammers are blocking the last evacuation ships from taking off." Reed studied the Vrak's position through his binoculars. "There, that tower with the blinking lights. That's the jammer. It's in the middle of their camp," Jones said. "No way to reach it." Reed smiled grimly. "There's always a way." He turned to his team. "I need 3 volunteers for a special mission." While most humans prepared defenses at the evacuation center, Reed led a small team through underground maintenance tunnels. The wracks, too big to fit in the tight spaces, hadn't bothered to guard them. "Remember, disable the jammer and get out," Reed told them. "Don't try to fight their whole army." The humans emerged from a hatch inside the wracks camp. Moving silently between tents and vehicles, they'd reached the jammer tower. 10 minutes to plant the explosives," whispered Reed. A wracks guard spotted them. Jones took it down with a knife before it could shout. Another wracks fired, hitting Jones in the shoulder. Reed shot back, and they ran for cover. The wracks alarm sounded. "Change of plans," Reed said. "Miller, can you hack the jammer from here?" Miller pulled out equipment. "Maybe. Give me 5 minutes." "You've got 2, Reed said, as he and the others provided covering fire. Back at the evacuation center, the remaining humans heard the alarms from the wracks camp. "That's our signal," said Grant. He stood up despite his injured leg. "Full offensive now." The humans attacked from multiple directions, using smoke and noise to seem like a larger force. They'd studied the wracks during the day, learning they relied heavily on their front-facing vision and had poor awareness of their flanks. The humans used this knowledge. They struck from the sides, retreated, then hit again from different angles. The wracks became confused, shooting at shadows. In the wracks camp, Miller's fingers flew across his device. "Almost there," he muttered. A massive wracks commander spotted them. It charged, armor gleaming. Reed emptied his weapon into it, barely slowing it down. The wracks swung a huge fist, sending Reed flying. He hit the ground hard, tasting blood. The wracks loomed over him. Reed couldn't reach his backup weapon. The alien raised its gun. Jones appeared behind the wracks, jumping on its back despite his wounded shoulder. He drove his knife into a gap in the alien's armor. The wracks roared, trying to throw him off. "Now, Captain," Jones yelled. Reed grabbed his fallen gun and aimed for the spot Jones had weakened. The wracks fell. "Jammer disabled," Miller shouted. The tower's lights went dead. Immediately, their radios crackled back to life. "All ships, take off now," Reed ordered. At the evacuation center, the Thelian ships roared to life. One by one, they rose into the sky, heavy with refugees. The wracks, seeing their prey escaping, launched a desperate final attack. They came in waves, hundreds strong. The humans formed a defensive line, fighting with everything they had. Grant treated the wounded while still firing his weapon. Another human, her arm broken, used her good hand to keep fighting. Reed and his small team fought their way back to the main group. "Is everyone still alive?" he asked in disbelief. "Alive and still fighting," Grant replied. "Humans don't go down easy." The battle raged through the night. The humans never stopped moving, never gave up ground. When their weapons ran out of ammunition, they used wracks weapons. When those ran out, they used knives, tools, even their hands. By dawn, the last evacuation ship was ready to leave. All Thelian civilians were safely aboard. The humans, bloody but unbroken, prepared to board when their radios crackled. "Human forces, this is Senate command. Stand down and prepare to be detained." Reed looked up to see Senate ships landing nearby. Then he looked at the battlefield, hundreds of wracks soldiers defeated by 15 humans. "I think," Reed said quietly, "we might have made a mistake." "What's that?" asked Jones, bandaging his arm. Reed gestured to the battlefield. "We showed them what humans can really do." Senate guards surrounded the humans. Their weapons looked tiny compared to the destruction all around them. "By order of the Galactic Senate, you are under arrest," said the guard captain, a tall being with metallic skin. Reed's team stood together, bloody and exhausted but still alert. None of them dropped their weapons. "We'll come peacefully," Reed said finally. "But first, we make sure every Thelian ship gets away safely." The guard hesitated, then nodded. Agreed. As the last refugee ship vanished into the sky, The humans surrendered. They were taken to a Senate medical ship where doctors of various species examined their injuries with confusion. "You fought for 26 hours straight?" asked a doctor, checking Grant's leg wound. "Had to," Grant answered simply. "But your body should have shut down from pain and exhaustion," the doctor insisted. Grant shrugged. "We keep going when we have to." In another room, Senate officials questioned Reed. "You disobeyed direct orders," said Vix, the Senate leader. "You engaged in unauthorized combat." "We saved thousands of lives," Reed replied. "I'd make the same choice again." Vix's face darkened. "The Senate must now decide what to do with humanity. Your actions have consequences beyond this one battle." On the Senate station, Turner received the news of Reed's arrest. She also received something else: video recordings of the battle, captured by Senate drones and Thelian security systems. Turner watched in silence as 15 humans defeated an army. She saw Reed's tactical genius, Miller's technological skills, and the sheer determination of all the humans who kept fighting despite injuries that would cripple other species. She understood now why the Senate feared them. News of the battle spread quickly. Across the Senate worlds, people watched the recordings with horror and amazement. Some called humans heroes. Others called them monsters. When the Senate convened to discuss the incident, the chamber was packed. Turner stood alone to represent Earth. "Before we begin," said Vix, "we will view the complete battle record." For hours, the Senate watched. They saw humans fight through pain, exhaustion, and overwhelming odds. They saw strategies no other species had ever developed. They saw humans using enemy weapons, setting traps, and moving with a relentless energy that never seemed to fade. When the recording ended, the chamber was silent. A senator with 6 eyes spoke first. "These humans fought like nothing I've ever seen. They never stopped, never surrendered." "They're too dangerous," said another. "Look how easily they killed." "But they saved all the Thelians," argued a third. "Not one civilian died after they arrived." The debate grew heated. Some senators wanted humans banned from Senate space forever. Others suggested studying humans for their military knowledge. Turner listened to it all, waiting for her chance to speak. Reed and his team were brought into the chamber in restraints. The senators grew quiet as they entered, many moving back in their seats. "These 15 defeated hundreds," whispered one senator to another. "Imagine what billions could do." Reed stood tall despite his injuries. His eyes met Turner's across the room. She gave him a small nod. A new figure entered the chamber: Lynn, the Thelian representative. With her came dozens of Thelian survivors, including children. "The humans saved us when no one else would," Lynn announced. "My people live because of their courage." A child broke from the group and ran to Reed. It placed a small hand on his arm in a Thelian gesture of thanks. The Senate watched in silence. The human warrior with blood still on his uniform knelt down to eye level with the child. "You're safe now," Reed said gently. In that moment, Turner saw the Senate's dilemma clearly. Humans were indeed dangerous, but maybe the galaxy needed that danger properly directed. Vix spoke gravely to the chamber. "Now we must decide. What do we do with creatures who can fight like demons but show kindness like this?" The formal hearing began 3 days later. The Senate chamber had been rearranged to look like a court. Reed and his team sat in the center, with Turner standing as their defender. Vix spoke from the high podium. "This hearing will decide 2 matters: the fate of these humans who disobeyed Senate law, and the broader question of humanity's place in our galaxy." Turner stepped forward. "I request permission to speak first." "Granted," said Vix. Turner looked around the chamber. She had prepared for this moment since the humans were arrested. "Honored senators," she began, "the humans you see before you acted to save lives, not take them. They fought only because there was no other choice." A senator with blue fur interrupted. "The issue is not why they fought, but how they fought. We all watched the recordings. No civilized species battles that way." Murmurs of agreement filled the room. "What way is that?" Turner asked calmly. Effectively, creatively, brutally, said another senator. Your Captain Reed broke a Vrax's arm and then used the same arm as a weapon against another Vrax. What kind of mind thinks this way? Reed didn't lower his eyes. He had done what was necessary. A human mind. Turner admitted. We evolved differently than you. We don't deny this. But consider this. Every human action was calculated to save Thelian lives. She displayed statistics on the large screens. 0 Thelian casualties after human involvement. Minimal collateral damage to infrastructure. Even among the Vrax, deaths were limited to combatants only. A senator with scales spoke next. But that's exactly what concerns us. These humans could have killed every Vrax if they wanted to. Their restraint today doesn't guarantee restraint tomorrow. Several military officials from different species nodded in agreement. Humans are too dangerous, one said. Their evolution as pursuit predators makes them think differently. They should be confined to their home system. Turner was ready for this argument. Many species were once feared. The Joraks were called monsters when first discovered, but now they're respected Senate members. The Joraks changed, countered Vix. Humans cannot change their nature. The debate continued for hours. Military experts analyzed human combat techniques. Scientists discussed human biology and psychology. Historians compared humans to other aggressive species from the past. Through it all, Reed and his team sat silently. Only their eyes moved, watching every speaker, measuring every reaction. Finally, Lynn the Thelian rose to speak. Her golden skin shimmered under the lights. We Thelians were dying, she said simply. The Senate debated while my people burned. Only humans acted. She activated a device that projected new images. Humans giving water to Thelian children, carrying the elderly to safety, treating wounds between firefights. Are these the actions of monsters? She asked. As the room fell silent, Kell the archivist stepped forward. With permission, I have studied our history. Vix nodded for him to continue. 3 times before, the Senate feared a species for their differences. Kell said. 3 times, that fear led to isolation policies. And 3 times, those isolated species were needed when great threats emerge. He looked directly at Reed. Humans are dangerous, yes, but perhaps the galaxy needs such danger, properly directed. A faction of senators loudly disagreed. Humans represent an evolutionary threat, one argued. They think in terms of conquest and victory. They cannot be trusted with weapons. Turner spoke one last time. You fear what humans might do in war. But have you considered what we might do for peace? The same determination that makes us formidable fighters also makes us unwilling to give up on difficult problems. Reed stood suddenly. The room tensed as he moved forward. Permission to speak, he requested. Vix hesitated, then nodded. Reed's voice was calm, but carried to every corner of the chamber. Your right to fear what humans can do. I fear it too, but I promise you this. We will always fight hardest for those who cannot fight for themselves. The chamber erupted in voices. The senators withdrew to deliberate. As they waited, Turner whispered to Reed, "What do you think they'll decide?" Reed watched the stars through the great windows. "I think," he said slowly, "they'll make sure humans never go to war again. And if there's another Thelian situation, then they'll find they can't stop us from helping," Reed answered. No matter what they decide. The Senate deliberated for 3 days. When they finally returned, the chamber was silent enough to hear breathing. Vic stood at the center podium, face solemn. We have reached our decision. Reed and his team stood at attention. Turner stepped forward to stand beside them. First, said Vix, regarding Captain Reed and his team, your actions saved many lives, but broke our most important laws. You are hereby pardoned of all charges. Surprised murmurs filled the room, but will remain under Senate monitoring for 5 years. Reed nodded. He had expected worse. Second, Vix continued, regarding humanity's place in the Senate. After much debate, we have created new legislation, the Human Containment Act. VIX activated a screen showing the document. Effective immediately, humans are banned from participating in any armed conflict in Senate space. Turner's face fell. The ban would limit Earth's ability